Good evening. Welcome to Believe It or Bullshit, where we sort through the chaos to figure out what's real and what's absolutely batshit insane. Spoiler alert, tonight's top story is unfortunately very real. Our lead comes to us from Florida, because of course it does, where a woman has redefined what it means to have unrealistic expectations of public services. At 2:42 in the morning, a 32-year-old woman in Vero Beach called 911 to report an emergency. So, the emergency was that she needed crystal meth, and she wanted the cops to bring it to her. Not kidding. Not a welfare check, not a noise complaint, not even a cat stuck in a tree. She dialed emergency services and requested a methamphetamine delivery like she was ordering DoorDash at 3 a.m. after the bars closed. According to CBS 12 in the Indian River County Sheriff's Office, Adriana Prince was sitting next to a power box in the Oslo Park neighborhood surrounded by her personal belongings when deputies arrived, and she immediately clarified her needs. She told them, out loud, with her whole chest, that she had called law enforcement specifically to bring her meth. She admitted she'd last used it 2 days ago, and yes, she did have a pipe in her purse, thanks for asking. Now let's pause here because this woman looked at the entire concept of policing, the justice system, the war on drugs, all of it, and decided the most logical move was to call the people who arrest drug users and ask them to become her dealers. That's not even regular stupid. That's advanced stupid. That's stupid with a minor in audacity. The deputies, who presumably spent their entire drive over wondering what fresh hell awaited them this time, found her lounging by a power box like she was waiting for curbside pickup. She wasn't hiding. She wasn't running. She was just there, bags arranged, hype ready, fully expecting the police to roll up with a care package. So naturally, when a deputy tried to search her purse for the drug paraphernalia she'd already confessed to having, Prince got upset about the invasion of privacy. The woman who called the cops on herself for being out of meth suddenly had concerns about the Fourth Amendment. She became argumentative. She tried to stand up despite being told repeatedly to stay seated. And when they moved to place her under arrest for the crime she'd openly admitted to committing, she escalated. She pulled away. She pushed a deputy in the upper body. Because when you've already torpedoed your own case by calling emergency services to request Schedule II narcotics, why not add assaulting an officer to the mix? The deputies, having reached the absolute limit of their patience with this woman's customer service complaints, deployed a taser. But even electricity wasn't enough to end this disaster. They had to physically restrain her to the ground, at which point Prince decided the best tactical move was to kick another deputy. So now we've got resisting arrest, battery on law enforcement, and the original possession of drug paraphernalia charge, all because someone couldn't grasp that 911 is not Uber Eats for controlled substances. The search of her purse turned up exactly what she said would be there, a meth pipe wrapped in a brown paper bag with white residue inside, like she was trying to pack a sad little lunch for herself. Prince was hauled off to Indian River County Jail where she's facing multiple charges, and somewhere out there is a 911 dispatcher who's going to need therapy after taking that call. This woman really sat there in the dark next to a power box, surrounded by her worldly possessions, looked at her phone and thought, you know who can help me score? The police. They're basically just public servants, right? The sheer fucking confidence required to call law enforcement and request illegal drugs is almost impressive. Almost. If it weren't so catastrophically stupid, it'd be inspirational. Instead, it's just another night shift in Florida where the calls get weirder and the excuses get thinner. But hey, at least she was honest about it. That's got to count for something, right? No? Okay, moving on, because apparently Vero Beach wasn't about to hold the Florida crazy crown alone. And if you think that level of customer service expectation is wild, buckle up because our next story involves a man who thought Amazon Prime drone delivery was real and decided to start his own pharmaceutical fulfillment center in the sky. 49-year-old Jason Brooks of Tampa had a business plan. He was going to use drone technology to revolutionize drug trafficking in the greater Hillsborough County area. Very forward-thinking, very Silicon Valley, very illegal. Except his prototype crashed directly into someone's fucking house in the middle of the night, and he had the absolute balls to show up at their front door asking for it back. According to CBS Miami and the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, this genius was out there playing Tony Stark with a quadcopter full of meth and fentanyl when his flying pharmacy decided gravity was still a thing and plowed straight into a residential home in Lutz. And instead of cutting his losses, abandoning the mission, maybe reevaluating his entire criminal enterprise, Brooks walked up to the homeowner's door after midnight and rang the bell like he was there to collect a lost frisbee. The homeowner, who had just been woken up by what I can only assume sounded like a small helicopter crashing through their backyard, opened the door to find this guy standing there asking if they'd seen his drone. Not sorry about the noise, not my bad about the property damage, not even a half-assed excuse about doing a science project. Just, hey, you got my drone? Like he was a kid who kicked a soccer ball over the fence. The homeowner, reasonably disturbed by the whole situation and probably wondering if they were being pranked by the universe, told him to get fucked and called the cops. Smart move. Because when deputies showed up and went into the backyard, they found Brooks's little delivery vehicle still smoking in the grass with packages of methamphetamine and fentanyl strapped to it like the world's worst care package. The drone hadn't just crashed. It had crashed with intent to distribute still attached, evidence just sitting there in the wreckage waiting to be collected. Now here's where it gets even dumber. Brooks apparently stuck around the neighborhood long enough for deputies to find him, which means after being rejected at the door, after knowing the cops had been called, he still thought he had a shot at retrieving his contraband-laden aircraft. That's not confidence. That's delusion with a side of felony stupidity. The deputies arrested him without much effort because he was basically loitering at the crime scene, waiting for his Uber that was never coming. They charged him with trafficking, possession with intent to distribute, and probably a few FAA violations for good measure because his drone pilot skills were apparently as sharp as his decision-making. Which is to say, not sharp at all. Let's talk about the logistics here for a second. This man invested in drone technology. He loaded it up with illegal narcotics. He programmed a flight path, or tried to. He launched it into the night sky with the confidence of someone who'd done this before. And then it immediately ate shit into a stranger's house like a drunk bird hitting a window. No successful delivery, no smooth getaway, just instant catastrophic failure followed by the worst customer service follow-up in drug trafficking history. He knocked on the door in the middle of the night. At the house, his drone just violated and asked for his drugs back. That's not even criminal behavior at that point. That's a mental health episode with a police report attached. That's the kind of decision-making that makes you wonder if the meth was for personal use before it ever got loaded onto the drone. The homeowner is probably still awake, wondering what kind of alternate dimension they're living in where people crash drug drones into houses and then politely request their return like they're asking to borrow a cup of sugar. Meanwhile, Brooks is sitting in county jail realizing that his entire high-tech operation lasted about as long as a TikTok video and ended with him personally delivering himself to law enforcement. He didn't even make it to the distribution phase. He crashed during the pilot episode, literally. Somewhere in an evidence locker, there's a busted drone covered in meth residue that's going to be Exhibit A in the easiest prosecution of the year. The public defender assigned to this case opened the file, read the first page, and immediately updated their LinkedIn looking for new opportunities. This is what happens when someone watches too many tech startup documentaries and decides to disrupt the drug trade. Innovation without execution. Vision without competence. A business model that literally crashed and burned in someone's backyard while the CEO stood on their porch asking for a do-over. Jason Brooks didn't just fail at drug trafficking. He failed at basic human behavior, he failed at physics, he failed at knowing when to run away. He failed at reading the room, when the room was a crime scene of his own making. And now he's failed his way into a cell where the only thing he's delivering is regret. So tell me, is crashing your drug drone into a house and asking for it back believe it or bullshit? Leave it in the comments. Hit that subscribe button because God knows what other insane shit I'm going to dig up next time.